Blog Talk Radio.
Life seems to crush your dreams, so find your balance for all you need. A little work, some family fun. Find your love, keep your life on the run. Told you how the story goes, so write your own script before you grow old. Live your life, laugh out loud. Own who you are, stand up proud. You gotta find what works for you. Find a darling that lets you be you.
Good evening and welcome to the Star Chamber Show live podcast. It is a great Wednesday evening here in Central Kentucky where I, Stephen Zimmer, am broadcasting from, and we'll be joined very shortly by our co-host, the lovely, the vivacious, the amazing Holly Phillippe. And I think actually Holly is about on right now. Holly, is that you? Is that Holly? We're checking in. She should be on. I think she is. We'll give her a second to get organized there. But I thought she was fully logged in there. But yes, this is episode number 100 I'm sorry, it's episode number 387 for those of you keeping track, and we have an awful lot to go over tonight. And as far as Imaginarium news, of course, the Star Chamber Show is affiliated with the Imaginarium Convention. And tonight, we have a fantastic guest who I'm really looking forward to having on the show. I've been watching this guest activity for a while online. Definitely a go-getter, and looking forward to speaking with this guest very shortly. So just hang on for a second. I'm going to go check and see if Holly's fully logged in there. It looks like she is on the board. Holly?
I'm here.
Okay, there you are.
Can
There you are. Yeah, it's clicking out when I first.
I was having some trouble with some headphones I was trying to use. It didn't work out.
Well, I hear you pretty good now, so we're good.
Okay.
And the chat room is open. So if you have any trouble getting in the chat room, just refresh your page. Sometimes it gets a little finicky, but if you refresh your page, you can get in there. So, Holly, I'm going to start with a lot of Imaginarium updates because we got like a ton of them since last week. We have spotlighted guests, a new Toastmaster, new panelists, premium workshop open, ad space open. I mean, it's just a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into it. It's good. Yeah, this is all since last episode, but we wanted to first go ahead and make the big announcement that we have named our new Toastmaster and his award-winning editor and author, Michael Nost, who, of course, is a very popular fellow here on the Star Chamber Show, definitely an Imaginarium favorite, and he will be taking over for Tony Acree after Tony did it for 9 years. Lee Martindale did it in our original year, and, of course, we're naming Tony honorary Toastmaster Emeritus. We'll give him a little title going into next year. It's going to be fun, and because, of course, a 9-year stint's pretty good, so he needs a break and definitely needs to have a chance to actually enjoy more of Imaginarium. And so Michael was just a little crazy enough to want to do this. So he's coming in with his Bram Stoker Award and everything to give us a bit of a special Toastmaster presentation. So this ought to be a lot of fun, Holly.
Oh, Michael is a blast anyway. The Nazi.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry, he'll still be in programming and be doing some workshop stuff. So don't worry about that. He just really was interested in doing the Toastmaster role, and I thought it's a great fit for him with the kind of convention that we have. He represents it perfectly. I mean, you could get a more perfect representative in terms of the kind of person that Michael Nost is and what he does for creative. So perfect Toastmaster. And tonight also we're going to tell you about two spotlighted guests, two new ones, another Bram Stoker Award winner, and that's award-winning author and editor John Palazzano, and he's just fantastic and just got tons of short stories and all kinds of amazing publications. definitely, I mean, you can go on and on and on. I mean, like Weird Tales, Cemetery Dance, and Space and Time, and I mean, just a huge list of publications that he's been featured in. Great guy, and he was on some just amazing panels last year. But yeah, he's a spotlighted guest. And then we also have the amazing multi-award-winning author, editor, and poet Sandy Lender. And Sandy has been named officially as spotlighted guest as well. And, of course, Sandy is definitely an Imaginarium favorite, and it's just amazing. I mean, just done traditional self-published novels, tons of magazine articles, short stories, and all kinds of competitive anthologies. And as if that's not enough, she also is a editor for an construction industry magazine. How cool is that? And has won awards in technical writing too. So, and she was the winner, I should say, of the 2023 Michael Nost Wings Award. So, going to be a blast having Sandy back as a spotlighted guest. And then, then with her, we have 8 new panelists that we've announced in the past few days, and they are Dan Klefstad, J.C. Hartcarver, Mick Williams, Eliza Childress, Sako Toomey, Linda Rees, Shannon McCarthy, and Dave Weller. So really, really stoked to have everybody aboard. I know Eliza, this is her first time as a panelist at Imaginarium. It is also for Shannon McCarthy and Dave Weller. And so, yes, we got some new faces as panelists, and then we also, of course, have some definite favorites. Of course, Mick Williams, he's won Imagine Awards. Sako Toomey is just a blast. I mean, she is just an amazing, multifaceted creative. Linda Rees gives tremendously good workshops, and J.C. Hartcarver's wonderful. I mean, and then, I might have mentioned tonight's guest in that list, but so I'll just kind of hold off on bragging about that guest until we're talking with him shortly here. But yes, we got a bunch of new panelists there to share with you. And as if that's not enough, yes, the ad space is now available on a first-come, first-served basis for the Imaginarium 2024 print and digital programs. Of course, all ads go in both versions, and we do make the digital version available online. And, we had a few thousand downloads of that last year publicly because we make that available to the general public for public download. And, of course, the print one is distributed at the convention to attendees. But you can go to the site and you can reserve ad space. Limited amount is available. And it's available till it's gone. First come, first serve. But, yeah, it's fairly reasonable on the fees for it. Very reasonable. And so if you want to promote yourself, promote your services, promote your company, give that a look because that definitely helps support the convention as well. And then last but not least, Marathonarium 2 is happening by popular demand. We're getting a lot of people inquiring, people that didn't do it the first time, people that did do it the first time. They're all like, please do this again. And so I have agreed to step in and serve as the editor for it. Of course, it is as it says, a Marathonarium. I'm going to honor and continue the fine tradition started by Sandy Lender last on the initial one, where she served as the editor for it, and it's a 3-hour writing session and workshop where the participants will create a short story, and it will be then worked on with me, and get time to revise it later after the convention and work on it for polishing up, and then it will be included in the Marathonarium Volume 2 anthology. And if you have had a chance to get a copy of Volume 1, of course, available in print and digital editions online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere. But if you had picked that up, you'll see how nice it did turn out, how good the stories were, and it's just a really, really quality thing that I'm proud to have Imaginarium associated with, and spotlights many writers. I mean, this one is going to be limited to 15 total. So yes, once those spots are gone, they're gone. A third of them have already been taken up just within the past day or two. So we've only got about 10 slots available. So yes, go and register for that as soon as you can. You must be registered for Imaginarium, of course, to be a part of that. But go look at the details. That's going to be a fun workshop. So yeah, there's the updates. quite a few, right? What do you think, Holly? That's a lot.
Yes. Yes. That's
just 1 week. 8 panelists, 2 spotlighted guests, ad space, digital and print program ad space, and then a Marathonarium 2 workshop, all within the last, since we had this show last week. So, yeah, we're busy, to say the least. And we're going to, I think, announce the hotel block opening tomorrow. I think that's on the slate for the big announcement tomorrow. So, yeah, hang on. It's going to be continuing. A lot of stuff. A lot. So do you have any comments on any of that, Holly? I know it's quite a list.
It is quite a list. It is. And there's more coming. I'm just telling people to stay tuned in. If you have any questions, concerns, shoot me an email. But, just keep your eye out on the Imaginarium website. Enter the Imaginarium.com, and we will be updating all info there. So if it's not there,
constantly,
it's probably not available yet.
Yeah, there's constant updates going up on the site, folks. So, yeah, that's a lot to keep up with. But on the homepage, of course, we always have individual announcements for everything. But we're going to get over now. We're going to recognize the folks that brought you tonight's show. Joining you tonight, or bringing you tonight's show, I should say, is Sandy Lender, the genre blender, and Per Bostet Publications. So, yes, we debuted a new spot from Sandy last week, and we're going to play it for you tonight. So listen up and make good choices in your reading, folks. You know what that means. Get some Sandy Lender books. Here you go.
Do you want nightmares for the Halloween season? I got you, boo. Let the demons, poisonous Adras, monstrous Ryfel, evil sorcerers, wicked dragons, and all manner of unsettling characters of the Choices series haunt you this October. But don't worry too much. The amazing Amanda Charisse is learning all she can to protect you from what lands on her balcony at night. Get your copy of Choices Meant for Gods from author Sandy Lender, available now everywhere fine books are sold.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, and folks. Yeah, definitely pick up a book. Tell her that you appreciate her support of the show. And now I will go over and give a little spotlight to the fine folks at Per Bostet. Of course, that's T. Lee Harris, Marion Allen, and Sarah Marion, the literary trifecta. Per Bostet Publications is a small press based in the Louisville metro area, specializing in speculative fiction and other outside-the-box books. With 40 titles in print and ebook formats and a handful of audiobooks, Per Bostet offers a little bit of everything. Follow the investigations of Private Eye David Blaze and M.B. Dabney's An Untidy Affair, a historical mystery set during the 1985 police bombing of the Move House in Philadelphia. Or join the psychic private investigator Alan Rodriguez in New Mexico in A Handful of Dirt by Janie Franz as he tries to clear an elderly man wrongfully accused of murder. You can find these titles and more at PerBostetPublications.com. At Amazon, you can find the press in person at events such as Prime Crime in Indianapolis in October, or at In Conjunction in Indianapolis and Louisville's Imaginarium Convention in July of next year. Per Bostet Publications, where timeless tales unfold. So, yes, thank you very much to Per Bostet. Great press, and you'll, of course, see them front and center at the convention, too. Just wonderful, wonderful people. And, yes, and Holly, yes, do you have anything to do, update us on, or I think I'm ready to bring on our guest.
Go ahead and bring on our guest.
I think I will. I'm looking forward to this. Tonight's guest is joining us for the very first time and is going to be a panelist at the Imaginarium Convention. Our guest tonight is a longtime radio host and newscaster. His latest novel, Fiona's Guardians. It's about humans who work for a beautiful vampire named Fiona. This book was adapted by Artists Ensemble Theater for their Mysterious Journey podcast, and as if that's not enough, a short film adaptation currently in pre-production with a release date in 2024. And so, yes, for the first time, I am very honored and excited to bring aboard the one and the only Dan Klefstad. And Dan, your mic should be on.
Hello, Stephen and Holly. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
We can hear you great.
Hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. It's great to be on the show.
Wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I see. For several months, I'd seen you online everywhere, and I was just curious. Dan, I got to speak to this guy. I got to get to know him somehow, and as things converged, I mean, it was wonderful because I saw that you had a event coming up with our mutual friend Bobby at Fabled Forest Books in Georgetown, and I thought, aha. Well, perfect segue to have you come on the show the week of your signing and talk with us. And of course, you're right off of a major TV appearance here in our area on WKYT. So yeah, you're having a bit of a media week and a signing event this weekend. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I actually have 4 bookstore events coming up, ending with the Louisville Book Festival on November 10th and 11th. There's been a lot going on, but what we're seeing here is the sprouting of seeds that I planted shortly after I moved to Kentucky in May. I've only been here since May, and when I arrived, I retired after 30 years in public broadcasting, the NPR station in Northern Illinois. I came down here and I just started reaching out to writers, to bookstore owners, to local media, and eventually I was able to get into a number of bookstores and build awareness around my vampire novel, Fiona's Guardian.
Well, you said the magic word for Holly because you haven't got a chance to get to know Holly too much yet, but the word vampire is probably her favorite word in the world. So, Holly, go ahead. I know you're jonesing to talk about this.
Oh, well, I identify as a vampire.
Okay.
Put that out on the table. I love the lore, everything around vampires. I have since I was a child. What was some of your early interest in vampire lore? I mean, did it start out with like the black and white Draculas, or what actually?
As a matter of fact, yes. I was 9. I maybe was 9 or 10 years old, and it's a Saturday late morning, and there's this guy with a strange accent and a strange name, Bela Lugosi. What is he doing on my TV, dressed in this funny cape and a little black tie, and then changing into a bat? So I was very young when I started watching these movies and becoming transfixed with not only Mr. Lugosi, but later it was Christopher Lee and Frank Langella, Gary Oldman, all that as I was growing up. But I was also reading at that time, shortly after, and I started with Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, and then I remember reading Dracula when I was in high school, and then the Anne Rice novels, the early ones, Interview with the Vampire and The Vampire Lestat when I was in college, and I guess I've always kind of stuck with the more gothic vampire tales, although I also did enjoy Stephen King's book Salem's Lot as well.
Yes, that is a great book. Yes, Anne Rice is my all-time favorite, and I always say Lestat is my beloved. I'm still waiting for him to give me the kiss of death. And I keep Lestat right here on my bedside. I mean, I'm all about Lestat, and it's a great time of year, but I mean, it's year-round for me. My decor is gothic, in my house, and that stays up year-round. I shop Halloween stores for, decor for the year-round, decoration.
Oh yeah, same here. Actually, so you and I we should hang sometime together. In fact, I hope you'll be at Georgetown, Fabled Forest this Saturday. I'm going to be there from 4 to 6 with a fellow author of Vampire Tales. Perhaps you've heard of her, Eva Vertrice. Do you know her?
I know her from seeing her online, but I haven't met her yet. So I think that'd be awesome. And actually, Holly and I are going to try to pop out there for a bit on Saturday. God willing, we got 8 million things going on right now on the home front, but we are going to try to make it out Saturday because love Bobby's bookstore, and we had her on not too long ago on the show. And and I think the timing is just awesome because you're right here in the Halloween season. You got 2 vampire novels being promoted and two fine authors, and yeah, this has all the makings of a fun day. So yeah,
it really does.
Looking forward to coming up
if
there.
I may add something about this, there's something about this event at Fabled Forest this Saturday, which elevates it from just an appointment by meeting two authors to turning it into something of a shopping experience for people who are looking for Gothic literature. In that the owner, Bobby, she is encouraging visitors to stop at the wine store just downstairs from her shop, get a glass of a Halloween-themed red wine. I think they're calling it Sangre de Juda, and or Blood of Judas, and bring that glass up to the bookstore to browse and meet the authors.
Nice.
Fun.
Yeah. Because, well, again, you're learning about Holly for the first time tonight, but her second favorite word after vampires is wine. So
yeah,
I mean,
I'm enjoying a very fine wine right now, as a matter of fact. Yes.
So is Holly.
Yes, I see.
But it's definitely a thing that Holly loves. I love wine as well. I'm more my top thing is just since you haven't gotten to know me yet, my top thing is a bourbon. But I do love wine, and but yeah, combining wine with books is just, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better mix right there, and better timing and better thing.
Before we get off at this subject, I do have to recommend a wine to you. And that is, I don't know if you've ever had it, is Inferno.
I've seen it on the shelf.
That's a fun one.
I will get that.
It's only out.
Sounds delicious.
This season. To me, it reminds me, it's got notes of dark cherry, like tart cherry. Not the real sweet, the tart cherry with dark chocolate. That's what I pick up. And then you get the slow burn because it's aged in bourbon barrels for at least 2 months.
Ooh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's
I am definitely going to get this. Thanks for the recommendation.
Let me know.
Definitely worth trying, though. But yeah, it's fun, and I just love the way how the bookstore is like, as you said, situated so that they got the wine shop right underneath, and that because of the way the license works, you can actually take it up and enjoy the books while bringing along your wine. Perfect.
And this is an experience you cannot get from shopping on Amazon or going into a Barnes & Noble. I think it's important to note that independent bookstores are able to give you a different kind of experience when you're shopping for a book.
I agree.
Sure.
I agree, and that's
100%.
And the kind of, I mean, people who haven't been there, I can't recommend it enough. I mean, it's just the vibe there is just amazing. I mean, it's just got a good vibe, right when you walk in and go up the stairs, and she's got every single step, like it's got its own like interesting paintings and the wall, the art in the walls, and then you get up, you have all those little nooks and crannies with all kinds of different stuff, and from everything from local teas and honeys to amazing books, and she supports indie authors as well, and I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth a road trip. If you're anywhere within range of Central Kentucky, Georgetown is a wonderful town. Easy to find the bookstore. It's right there, right about on the corner of Main Street, and it's I
think it's 100 South Broadway. Yeah.
Yep, it's right just a few doors down from Main Street, on the corner where Main Street is, and so that gives you a little idea. I mean, if you're coming from like Lexington, you'll run smack into it if you come out that way. But it is a cool bookstore, and yeah, I'm glad you found them and got established there. 'Cause I didn't realize you've only been here since the spring. I mean, it's in my mind, it seems like I've just seen you all over the place. So it seems in my mind that you've been here longer.
Well, that Imaginarium poster you assembled, it said author and publicist. I guess I've been very good at, persistent at publicizing my book and independent bookstores that carry my book.
Yeah, well, I figured you picked up a few things over the years doing newscasting and broadcasting, and that kind of thing. And I was curious to ask about the publicist side because, I know when you come to Imaginarium, a lot of people probably want to pick your brain about that end because authors are always trying to figure out ways to do better publicity and things like that. But you like you said, you had a fairly nice run as a broadcaster. And what kind of shows did you do before? And what kind of was your area of activity?
I was initially hired as a jazz host. I was a blues radio host for 18 years.
Nice.
And let's see, the Halloween show was my favorite show to do every year. Robert Johnson, Hellhound on My Tail, or I went to the Crossroads and sold my soul to the devil kind of thing, Let's see. Of course, I was in news for many years, and for 25 years, I was the morning edition host, so I would get there at 4 o'clock in the morning. I basically had no social life, but it was good living.
Now I know how that's like because actually, when I was back in school and stuff, I'd done some internships and worked in some TV stations at the beginning of my road, and I spent many a very early hour going in, before dawn to news stations to work and stuff. So I know how that world can get at times, and but we love music, and I love blues. So in particular, that's definitely up my alley as well. So that's cool. And
but what's interesting is when you're in the news business, you do learn about publicity fast, because if you create a story and you spend all these hours editing for the radio version, there has to be a website version with text and photos and videos and stuff. And then there are all these different versions of the story that you have to do, including one for the newsletter for the listeners. You learn very quickly that if you do a great story, an award-winning story, and nobody hears it, it doesn't exist. So you learn how to use social media. We're taught this in seminars, how to get our stories out in front of as many people as possible. And that's where I learned some of the tools that helps me with promoting a novel now.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the stuff converts over wonderfully, but it's such a weirdly changing field, especially in social media, because you always see these platforms are changing their algorithms, and sometimes you suddenly find that your impressions are dropping because they're emphasizing different things or different types of posts, and I know that's driven me up a wall sometimes because just when you finally figure out some certain platforms, they'll change the rules on you really quick. but I imagine you've learned how to adapt too, I'm sure.
Well, you adapt. My secret is just very simple. Be persistent. Just keep putting out. It's almost like establishing a brand. The biggest brand out there for that any author has created is Stephen King, of course. I mean, when he puts out a book, you know what you're going to get, and it instantly, that's why it becomes a bestseller, and then a movie a year later. People can invest in that, but I would say to authors who are trying to get the word out about their own writing, is to figure out a way to turn your writing and a little bit of yourself into a brand that will be recognizable the instant that it appears in somebody's news feed,
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And, but something I always warn authors about, though, in the social media world, I mean, you can suddenly get sucked in so much that you suddenly find out you've used half your day and you don't have much time for writing left. So, you definitely got to manage
the challenge.
You definitely got to manage
this is the challenge, and that's why it has taken me a lot longer than I expected to get the sequel to Fiona's Guardians out. I'm nearing completion, and I expect to have the book done by summer. But my own journey promoting, creating awareness about my book has led to me to ask myself, am I an author or am I a promoter of books? And, you alluded to how much time it takes. It does take an enormous amount of time to get your book out in front of potential readers. And so then you just kind of have to decide what is more important. If you have one book that you really believe is your best book, I would argue that it may actually be better, to spend more time promoting that, because the minute more people know about that book, they are going to be interested in subsequent books. And you can't write a great book or even a seriously good book right away. I think for many writers, they'll recognize that it takes time to marinate. It takes sometimes years to write the next book, a good follow-up book. So I think it's worth letting that marinate, and during the time that's happening, just get out there and do the work, beat the pavement, so to speak, and call the bookstores, write the bookstores, call the local media, the chambers of commerce when you do get a bookstore engagement, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
Yes, you definitely have to be your own cheerleader and your own, your own business person, because you are your brand, And I know authors, a lot of them have a false belief, or, they've been told stories, and, they think, oh, I'll just put the book out and, put it worldwide distribution. It's going to sell. Maybe one in a million stuff, You really got to put the business hat on, and that's hard for a lot of authors, and some of them need help, and that's why writing conventions like, Imaginarium is so helpful to people, because they can speak with those who have been there, done it, know the ins and outs, have learned from their mistakes, because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, and that's how we learn, right? That's human nature.
Yeah, and I've made those same mistakes, and have learned my lesson as well. I guess I've caught a few lucky breaks along the way. But what you've been seeing on social media related to my book or bookstore appearances is the culmination of years of work, basically.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I know that process goes myself as a writer. And I love your kind of way of phrasing it, marinate, because I see working as an editor myself, I see a lot of authors try to hurry to get their manuscripts done and this and that. I'm always telling them, no, just hand it in when you're ready. Don't feel like you have to rush it in. I mean, that's when you I think make some of the miss some things. You do have to let it percolate a little bit and go through some additional passes and give yourself a little time to think about it in order to let everything rise that can rise during the process. I talk
listen to constructive criticism.
Agreed.
Oh, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. There are people out there who care about your work, who are going to tell you the truth about what's not working in the manuscript, what needs to be fixed, and you should seriously listen to them. Yeah, and
this is some of the things that I'm talking about with authors constantly as an editor. You're definitely preaching my gospel there. So that's good. But Fiona's Guardians, it's let's dive into this a little bit, because it is the book that's being featured this weekend, and it's already been produced by a theatrical company. It's already been adapted as a short film. I want to hear about all this, but first, let's get into the story itself and what's your stamp on the vampire world and what's behind it.
Well, Fiona's Guardians is about humans who work for a beautiful, powerful vampire named Fiona. She has had many guardians over the years. Starting in the early 20th century, she got the notion that it might be smarter to have someone else do the work for her, getting her blood, so that she doesn't have, the trail doesn't end at her door. So there won't be murder police showing up at her doorstep during the daytime when she's most vulnerable, when she's asleep. So having an intermediary, a human, doing the work for her is not an entirely original idea. We see these vampire familiars in literature But the difference is the main guardian that is working for Fiona right now, Daniel, is her longest serving one. He's been there for more than 30 years, arranging for her blood supply. He has people in hospitals all over the country who steal a little bit of blood, not enough to be noticed. And then they sell the blood to him. He brings the blood to Fiona. She needs 10 pints of human blood every night to survive, and she prefers O negative. So it does get a little bit of specific in what she's looking for, and so and so I think that the idea of having humans do her work for her sets her apart from the rest of the members of her vampire family in this book.
Very cool, Holly. You're the expert between us two on various types of vampires. You want to tackle that side of it with him? Because I know you're going to ask about the kinds of vampires.
Well, I love the whole premise of using the humans for that, and I'm interested is how does she trans to talk them into this, or does she barter with them, saying, if you get me this blood for so many years, I will turn you into a vampire? I mean, how does she get the humans to actually do her bidding?
Well, early in the book, we learned about Daniel's story, how he comes to work for her initially because he's working for another vampire. He sort of fell into the role of being a vampire guardian. And then she hires him. And it isn't an explicit contract. He's attracted to her. She's a stunningly beautiful creature. He's attracted to her and wants to kind of spend more time with her. He's also aware that he is potentially dinner, if she should turn on him. But he goes along. I wouldn't say a trance so much as he's intrigued. He's curious, and they start talking. They have conversations. And then situations arise very quickly where he has to get her food quickly. And so he becomes basically a partner in crime very quickly. On his first day of working with Fiona, he murders to keep her alive, and so that's how their relationship starts.
Wow.
And so
cool.
and Daniel's highly paid. He's paid millions to do this, but also he's protected by Fiona, which is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Have you ever seen the show? There was a U.S. and a British version, Being Human.
Yes.
Okay. Well, how in there they've got people placed in hospital settings, workers, nurses, interns, people like this that are actually getting the blood for the vampires. They put them into undercover jobs and all this. So is your character similar to that? I mean, they're in positions where they're around blood, like blood banks, or they work, the blood mobiles, or are they placed in these different jobs?
Yeah, and this is actually, we see this in a couple of different movies and TV shows as well. It isn't just on Being Human, but the idea of having insiders in hospitals or blood banks who may not know who the ultimate consumer is, and that's the case of my book. They don't know that they're just nicking a few bags of blood here and there. Oh, it has to be an O negative, and the order is 10 pints this night. Okay. They don't really know. They're just selling it to somebody who's going to sell it to Daniel, but they don't know it's going to a vampire.
Financially motivated.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a business arrangement all the way through, and that helps keep the supply chain stable. So there's never, because if there's a breakdown in the chain, as happens a couple times in the book, it's very serious. What has to be done next.
Right. Ooh, I
Very
love
cool.
it. I love the twist. Because like I always, some people are purists and they're like, oh no, vampires can't sparkle or and we always go back to Twilight. And I'm like, leave poor Stephanie Myers alone. Sorry. I love the Twilight books. And, Anne Rice's, of course, Lestat is the creme de la creme here. But, really, it's okay to change up, the lore, to add your own spin. I mean, that makes it new. That makes it fresh. You don't want to rehash the same thing over and over and over. You want to add your own spin. And I think that's what
because otherwise we're doing fan fiction, essentially,
Exactly.
And we do want to, as writers, you do have to say something new and propel the genre a step forward or two,
Right.
Yeah, like my favorite vampire, and Holly always laughs, I say it, Nandor from What We Do in the Shadows. I mean, let's face it, he flew into outer space. The first vampire to fly into outer space. Even Lestat hasn't done that.
Yeah.
Even Lestat hasn't done that. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Nandor the Relentless. But yeah, you can. I know it's primarily a comedy, but it's fun with the way they play with some of the lore there, but I always love. Like I said, looking at the portrayals of vampires and the way they're portrayed, like if you saw the recent movie Voyage of the Demeter and the way that Dracula was portrayed in the almost beast form all throughout. And then you have, of course, the Nosferatu portrayal. You have the charming Lestat portrayal. You have everything in between, like the book series from Brian Lumley, the Necroscope series. You have they're kind of like aliens. They're from another planet, and they're really monstrous. And I just love that series. But I personally am fascinated because I'm more of I love drawing to creatures and stuff a lot and lore and different ways they're shown, like werewolves, vampires. What I guess type of vampire do you have? And I mean, is it am I asking spoilers to give away what Fiona can do or what she can turn into or what her powers are? I mean, what kind of vampire is she?
I keep it pretty traditional. I use all the traditional tropes. So the great threat, the most obvious threat in my universe that I've created is sunlight will cause a vampire to burn up very quickly. So they have to avoid going out in the daytime. And actually, that's a trope that really begins with one movie, the 1922 Nosferatu. Before that, and so I just find that it was obviously cinematically interesting to do it that way, and I just think in the reader's mind it's much more a visual threat. The other thing is I keep the stake through the heart thing, but I've updated it. There are vampire hunters in my book, Fiona's Guardians. They are basically an ancient Vatican SWAT team that's been hunting vampires for centuries, and the humans who serve them. And they have, over the years, developed their technology. So they use drones with thermal imagers to find the vampires who are much colder than humans. And they developed wood-tipped bullets that they can use in place of stakes through the heart. And so that's kind of one technological leap, I guess, I've tried to make here with my book. But other than that, we learn later whether crosses and garlic work or silver. We have answers to that in my book, but it's not. I always try to reveal it as part of a story. It doesn't keep this as part of a plot development or character development. It's all got to be part of the story when I reveal these things. And then there's a question of Fiona having a few extra special powers. She reads minds, which is one thing. And we learn about a vampire's ability, at least Fiona's ability, to possess someone from afar.
Nice. I like that.
It helps. It leads to a couple of interesting scenes, some raw kind of scenes.
Yeah, that's with the Strigoi type of vampires, that does get it some neat lore of things like that. I love that, and That sounds awesome. And I love the fact you use tech, because I always thought that was one of the coolest things about the Underworld series was they created bullets that had like UV light. If you remember, what was it, Holly? It was like UV light bullets. And,
it was UV light. Yeah, they harnessed it to a bullet. Yeah.
Yeah, into a bullet.
Yeah, actually, it's a little easier. You don't have to get a direct hit on the heart then, do you? You can just hit them anywhere in the body, and they will.
Yeah.
But tech. Yeah, but using modern tech in ways that play with the lore, I think it's really cool. I mean, I love it when authors play with that. So that sounds really, really intriguing. And but not to leave out, like we always talk about secondary characters and so forth. But I think some of that always makes a novel really rich. Here are some of the other interesting, a couple of the maybe interesting characters that we can look forward to meeting in your book. You may continue in the series.
Thanks. I hope you enjoy meeting them.
Yeah, because that's always something we talk about. Yeah, a good story. It's not just driven by protagonists and antagonists, but when you have really strong secondary characters and even ones that are just briefly. And I mean, if you really have some powerful ones, I mean, it can really make a story fly. And and
if I may add. If I may add, the battle, if you will, between this ongoing war between the Vatican vampire hunters, and I call them Mors Strigoi, or Death to Striga, and the vampires. It's really, I kind of hope that the reader will often find it difficult to choose sides between these two, because I do think that I spend a lot of time not only the individual vampire characters and their humans, but also the vampire hunters themselves. I spend a lot of time giving them enough of a personality and enough of something that would that would a reader might connect with. And so I'd like the reader to sort of have an open mind about who's the protagonist or the antagonist, who's good and evil, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Holly, hey, you're not always fond of vampire hunters, are you?
No, not at all. Not at all. They're not my favorite people. But it adds intrigue to a story. You gotta have them sometimes to act that punch. Be that shock factor. Van Helsing.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to have them Van Helsings in there, which was a great movie, by the way.
Dramatic tension is what it brings,
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, tell us a little bit about some of the adaptations.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Holly, and then we'll get into the adaptations later. But go ahead, Holly.
When I was getting into the adaptation, how did this become a play? I mean, was it just who you spoke to one day and they was like, oh, I'm a playwright, and you're like, hey, I got this book? Or, I mean, how did that come about?
Yeah. So, during the pandemic, you'll remember theater companies all over the country, all the world really, had to shut down. And so you had all these actors out of work. You had directors, playwrights, sitting at home, just watching television and doing nothing, and worrying how they're going to pay the bills. So a fellow announcer of mine at WNIJ, the radio station where I used to work, one of the other hosts there was a member of this all-professional company called Artists Ensemble Theater. They're based in Rockford, Illinois, and they've been around for 20 years. And he said, I've been talking with their resident playwright, he said this to me, named Margaret Rather, and their director, and they want to have, we should have a conversation. You should call them because they're interested. And so I called them, and we had a really good phone call, and they said, well, we're kind of busy. We're doing all these. We have this new podcast, which is our response to the pandemic and all the theaters shutting down. Artists Ensemble Theater launched this podcast called Mysterious Journey, and you could find it on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. And they said, but we can do one for you around Halloween. We may be able to do an adaptation of your novel. And so the playwright, Margaret Rather, sent a draft script to me 3 weeks later, and the script was perfect. I read it and I thought, oh my gosh, this is great. She had to make a change at the end because what she did is she took 3 early chapters of my novel, added a couple of other things from later on in the book, and made a 35-minute complete story arc out of the story. And she knocked it out of the park with her writing. And then I said, this is fantastic, go. And then I think it was a Labor Day weekend in 2021, 7 union actors went into the studio to record this, and it sounds like a little bit like an old radio play, you know, the old radio things that you used to hear in the 1930s, these theater of the mind broadcasts with narration, dialogue, music, sound effects, that kind of thing. And it's really great. So you can find it on say, Spotify at, A Mysterious Journey, Fiona's Guardians, and it's well worth your time.
Yeah, I was almost one of the questions I was going to ask, and almost as reading about it, it did sound like an old audio play, like the old radio type ensemble plays that were done, and that sounds awesome. But yeah, I definitely want to check that out. Yeah, it really.
I think it sounds great. And they got a good Fiona too. You ever thought about releasing it almost as an audiobook? Because some of them are theatrical audiobooks. They do have cast-driven audiobooks. I have been. My publisher has been after me. A few readers have been after me for a long time. You're a radio guy, Dan. You should be recording an audiobook. And I have been thinking about it. Now that I'm retired, I think maybe I have the time to do this, or will soon. So yeah, I mean, I may give it a try. I've never recorded an audiobook before. I would love to do it, but I want to do it right, and I'm going to need the right equipment for that. So that's something I'm thinking of. But I think what I'd prefer to do first is finish the manuscript for the sequel to Fiona's Guardians, and then I think I will turn to the audiobook version. So what's the plan with the as far as the sequel timetable? Are you kind of indeterminate right now, or do you have a general time window for that one as far as coming out? Let's see. I'm about 200 pages in. I anticipate this book to be about as long as Fiona's Guardians, so another 100 pages. And so I feel like I'm entering the home stretch. So here, where are we now? October. I think I could have this manuscript completed and work with my publisher on this beginning in, say, May. That's kind of the target I've given myself. Get a well-edited manuscript to my publisher by May for a release, say, in August or September. Very nice, very nice. And first one looks like it got a really good response. I mean, right from the top review, it's from Vine Voice. It's 5-star review. I mean, and you definitely have excellent ratings on Amazon and Goodreads. So I'm guessing your perspective is that book one has gone over pretty well. Well, my publisher is very happy. He's been happy with the sales of the paperback. So happy, in fact, that he arranged to have a hardback edition released just last October. And so the hardback release was, this is a small publisher, I got to say. So it's a traditional contract, but it's one guy, I think, running the entire show there. So he invested in some really good artwork, a Ukrainian artist named Martelia, who redid the cover art. And so if you look at, on Amazon or wherever, for the hardback edition, you'll see the cover art looks more gothic, I think, and has a little more of that feel. And I think the artist just really did an amazing job. And so the hardback edition is a nice little addition and it has 2 additional chapters at the end, which are earmarked for the sequel. So I was looking at that. I was going to bring that up, that you had 2 covers. Price point is great, by the way. The hardcover is only $19.95, and your paperback right now on Amazon is $10.86 as we speak. So I mean, and I think it'll be priced similarly. Fantastic. Yeah, these will be priced similarly at Fabled Forest when I'm there on this Saturday.
Yeah, the price points are fantastic. And is that Daniel in silhouettes on the hardcover, or is that somebody else?
I had intended that to be the current Guardian, Daniel. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I noticed two figures in that one, and the other one's a very nice cover too. I mean, I really was drawn to the obviously it's Fiona, I'm guessing, but yeah, really nice with the reddish highlights of the hair and the face kind of shadowed, and nice font choice with the little bit of a Fang reference in the font that they did.
Yeah.
And really
my
cool.
publisher actually did that artwork, and he was going for a 1980s vibe when the paperback came out in 2020. He was going for this sort of a 1980s revival kind of thing, and you might remember around 2020 there were a lot of shows that had 80s nostalgia to them, most notably Stranger Things, the first season.
Oh yes.
And so we were capturing a little bit of that,
Well, good choice, because Holly and I are 80s fanatics. We love the 80s music, 80s films, and definitely a golden age.
Yeah, well, I grew up in that time too, so
I don't mind that at all.
Gen X, baby, Gen X.
That's what made. For me, that's what made Stranger Things just shine, is how well they brought the 80s vibe back, and of course a lot of great vampire movies from that era. I mean, Holly and I just got done watching Lost Boys again for fun. Of course, Fright Night, great true fusion of horror and comedy, which I thought.
The original Fright Night is very good. Yeah, and Near Dark. Don't forget that one.
Near Dark. I mean, you can go on and on.
Oh, I haven't seen that one in years. I'm going to go back. Yeah, I haven't seen that one in years.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Catherine Bigelow's directorial debut, Near Dark. And she's gone on to win an Oscar for Best Director, but that's where she started.
Did the film version of Salem's Lot, did that crest the 80s, or is that right at the very end of the 70s?
I
can't remember.
It's 79. It came out. In fact, my wife and I were just watching that the other night.
I was thinking it was about 79, 80. That's in my head. I had 79, 80. Yeah.
It was the movie of the week. In October, I forget, ABC or CBS. There were only 4 channels back then. I was 12, I think, when that movie came out. Or that's TV miniseries. Sorry. And then but I remember that had just when Ralphie Glick back and he's scratching on the window and his brother Danny is in bed, that scene still just gives me chills. And I keep forgetting. I have to be reminded, Tobe Hooper directed that, which is just amazing. Wow. It was that's why that show just looks so good on TV and still holds up in many ways, because Hooper, of course, directed Texas Chainsaw. He went to go on to direct Poltergeist. He was to bring him on, someone with true horror credentials to direct a TV miniseries like that was quite something, and I think he did a great job. Oh yeah, I was about to say that movie is one of the few that really scared the heck out of me as a kid, and the one jump scare they had
it had the creaturist vampire
jump right in the frame.
Vampire.
Yeah.
Creepy.
It was more the not for
still creepy after all these years.
Yeah. So, it really is.
Love it.
It really is. And then variations of that, of course, occurred throughout the 80s. But then as far as the pop culture goes, I'd have to say that Lost Boys, I think, really helped explode vampire popularity in the 80s prior to some other stuff coming up. If you go back and you watch Near Dark, and Lost Boys, make it a double feature night. They're kind of the same film. They're about vampire families. One's the more glamorous, young, good-looking people on motorcycles with motorcycle jackets and that kind of thing, and the other, a little dirtier, dingier, but they're basically, in many ways, and they even share a shot when they're standing on top of a ridge or a hill. You see them all, and they actually have the same
shot in them almost. They're very similar films with different stories, but yeah, a double feature all the way. You should do it.
Yeah, Keanu and his gang. They looked like they could have measured up with an '80s hard rock metal band in a heartbeat. Those guys, those four, they looked like a hair metal band almost.
Absolutely.
Kiefer Sutherland was the man. I'm telling you, he was great.
Yeah,
he was.
He was great. He really was. Yeah.
And then the way they kind of, as a kid, it did catch me by surprise. Ed Herman, being the master vampire, that was a nice little bit of a twist-a-roo. Watching it today, I would probably pick up on it faster, but as a kid, that definitely was a twist for me, and I didn't see it coming. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Yeah, even knowing that, it's still fun to watch, I think.
Oh yeah, no, we don't get tired of it. Holly and I periodically watch it again, and it's one of those movies just simply fun. And I think that's what things like Stranger Things have remembered, is the fun part of it. And I think that's what was lost for a long time, is that there is a fun aspect that you can have.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't have to always be. And when you can, let's go ahead, Holly.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, I have a fun question. If you had to pick a vampire power for yourself, which one would you choose?
Oh, good one.
Like from that I'm curious.
Well, there's something about the possibility of living forever, which is intriguing just itself, just by itself, is one of those powers that I would think, gosh, wouldn't that be something? What would it be like to live forever? These are one of the things I thought about when I was a kid, and vampires were always portrayed as creatures that just went on and on and on unless something catastrophic happened, like a stake through the heart. The power to just live eternally, that still intrigues me, actually. I constantly ask myself, what would that be like? Would I ever get bored? Or would I just really revel in it?
I would have to say I would revel in it, because I just love watching, history happen and things like that. I'm always curious about it. I think if I ended up for some reason getting that kind of ability, that would be something that would be a lot of fun. To see the ages pass. And then again, it could get frustrating, because you'd watch things play out in similar ways again and again and again, as far as worldwide. But that might get frustrating.
Yeah, humanity.
But,
that's true.
Humanity being,
mine would definitely be the healing. Mine would be healing.
Well, killing or healing?
Well, a little bit of both, but heal, to be able to actually heal medical elements, illnesses.
Yeah.
I would love. I'm a nurse, so I would love to be able to heal myself, because I have COPD and fibromyalgia and all this stuff. So I'd love to be able to to be healthy and all this energy and everything again. And I would love to be able to do that for other people. Heal with the blood and all that. I think that would be fascinating. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool, and of course you working in the healthcare profession, that's really interesting. And I got to say, there are not many vampires out there that are that we hear about in popular culture who are interested in healing others. It's always, I've got to take care of my own needs, but to have the power to heal others, that's something I might play with in a book or a short story one day.
Yeah,
that would be really neat, because that's exactly what I would be doing. I would be going around trying to, heal the sick and lame. I mean, there's just all kinds of things. I mean, because they can heal everything, any kind of internal element or whatever. You could bring perfect wellness to people, even mental illnesses, which are rampant now. I mean, I've thought about this, of course, because I love vampires. So I've thought about this. But yeah, you could heal all manner of disease, cancers. I mean, you could. It's just fascinating to me. And
oh my God, you want to be Jesus? That is?
Yes, perform miracles. On my commune. I won the commune. That's the ultimate goal. Yes, there we go.
see, but here, Dan, it's concept versus reality, though. Here, Holly and I would be thinking about all these grandiose things and how elegant it'd be and how noble. We'd end up being like Laszlo and Nadja, or Nandor from What We Do in the Shadows. We would end up being the klutz vampires. Yeah, we'd get by.
I would definitely be Nadja.
So your intentions are good.
Yeah,
my intentions would be good. Yes,
but we would be the screw up vampires. Yeah, we'd bumble our way through.
Great theory,
I think that would be a lot more fun.
Practice, Yes.
Yeah. As long as we found a good Guillermo to work with us, we'd probably do all right.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But it's
Guillermo, he's a good one.
Oh, what a character! What a character! But yeah, it sounds like it's just a really amazing book and start to a series. And do you have a plan for about how long the series is going to be at this point? Do you have a vision for that or not yet?
I don't. I don't even have the ending for the sequel yet. But I think once I have the ending, that will determine whether or not I want the series to continue or if I should feel like I should just move on to something else. But yeah, once I have the ending, that's the key, I think.
What drew you to this genre to be your your debut novel? I mean, are there other genres of writing that you have an interest in, or is this the one that's really been the beacon for you?
Well, no, I've written other books and other short stories. This is my first horror novel, but
okay.
I've been aware of vampires for so many years. I've been intrigued by them in popular culture, and I always thought that they made great metaphors for the things that drain our energy. It could be the vampire could be a family member. It could be a coworker of yours. It could be a corporate or government agency that's slowly stealing money from you and making you ask yourself, why do I feel poorer this week? That kind of thing. And so at the end of Fiona's Guardians, I'm hoping that readers will ask themselves, who's my vampire?
Yeah, Holly and I have run into our share of psychic vampires. Sometimes we're cornered by one at a book fair, but it's known to happen. But yes, I've yet to bump into one of the OG types like you have.
Yeah.
So one day I may end up just turning around and discovering that Holly's transformed into one. That'll be a whole other issue. But thankfully, that
I'm trying my best. I'm trying.
but you've got now after Fabled Forest, you said the Lexington Book Festival is coming up and some other stuff. I know you had something on the 27th as well that you had mentioned. But yeah, I'd love to hear about some of the other events you got coming up.
Well, I'm going to be in Columbus, Indiana on Saturday, October 21st. Village Lights Bookstore is there, and they've been there. They're going to be celebrating 50 years of an independent bookstore. 50 years, that's amazing for Columbus, that's Indiana. Amazing. So I'm going to be there. On the 21st from 11 to 2, and then there's something my first moderated author talk in Bloomington, Indiana. On Friday, October 27th, I'll be at Morgenstern Books, and the moderator of this author talk will be a host from the local NPR station there, John Bailey from WFIU, and this is from 6:30 to 8, again on the 27th in Bloomington at Morgenstern Books. That's something I'm looking forward to a lot. And then the Louisville Book Festival, November 10th and 11th.
Yeah, that's a spectacular one. Definitely going to be a great day for you. But yeah, you're keeping busy, and you have some other stuff scheduled into the holidays and beyond, or is this going to be your run for the year?
After the Louisville Book Festival, I am going to stop. I'm going to retreat into my little writing room, and I'm going to get busy on the sequel. That's what I'm going to do.
Nice. So Now, I'm going to turn to another adaptation that was really intriguing because I myself am also a filmmaker and screenwriter. You also are having this adapted into a short film that's going to be in production by 2024. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So you had to ask about that.
Yeah, there's an IMDb page for this one, Fiona's Guardians. It was originally supposed to come out this year, 2023, but we pushed it to 2024 because the director and screenwriter, Stuart Wallin, and I have been rewriting the script over it. This is my first attempt at a screenplay, by the way. So I am green and trying to figure out how to tell a story with this particular method. Now, Stephen, you mentioned you're a screenwriter. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that you know that it's a completely different way of writing. Emphasizing visuals, obviously. And so I am learning this. I've got my copy of the Screenwriter's Bible by David Trottier. I've been reading Save the Cat. I've been, doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, trying to, figure out how to do this. And so we're going through this process, Stuart and I, of revising the script, and it's going to be a 20-minute short film. That's the initial goal. And then we'll see if we can do something that's going to be a lot longer.
Yeah, it's I think you're going to do just fine. It's once you get the feel and you already understand it's a completely different art than prose writing. So I mean you already won half the battle there, because that's one of the biggest problems for a lot of novel writers that come over is they have that urge to want to put too much into it. And instead of realizing, it's something where you have to step back and show. You cannot go into the interior thoughts. You can't, get, overly descriptive. You can't, it's definitely a minimalist form as opposed to, the novel. And that's one of the harder things, I think, for a lot of writers to make the transition into screenwriting. But once you find that narrative, and definitely can drive to through a nice linear narrative type situation. Yeah, you can definitely make some good headway with your screenplay. Yeah, it's not not a mountain you won't climb. Don't worry.
Good. I'm going to try to climb it. We'll see what happens.
Well, and once you've done it, it definitely gets easier in the future. And adaptation, and plus you're also have the added challenge of adapting your own work, and that's a whole different beast too, because there's so much that you end up kind of cutting out from the book that because 85% or more of the book is not necessarily going to make it into the screenplay. So when you're attached to a book and then you have to step back and start cutting so much, that's always something that's it's a little difficult, I think, for writers their first time through, because everything is I know everything to you is your baby and important. So all of a sudden now you have to slash and really pare it down, and can't put every bit of dialogue in that was in the book. Can't put everything an element that was in the book, and some things you have to cut out entirely in order to make it work in a medium of film. So
how does
that's a hard thing.
Stephen King put it. He said, "Kill your darlings." Is that it? That's how he put it, I think?
Yep.
When you're writing Yeah,
it's not easy, but that sounds awesome, and definitely hope that even if it's not ready for next year's Imaginarium Film Festival, maybe the year after we'll be able to hold a screening of it and get to show it off. But that sounds amazing. So keep us up to date on your progress with that, and
thank you.
love the film scene here in community, so I'm always curious as to how projects are going, and this sounds like a fun one, and Holly does too. She's even acted, so if you need some extras.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Love that.
And I'm sure she would be extra motivated to be an extra in a vampire film. So.
Yeah. Who wouldn't, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And she's got a presence. She's 6'1", so she's got a little bit of a presence. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Oh man, that's fun. But that sounds really, really good. But now I'm going to completely go back, dial back a little bit, because you mentioned you also had some, obviously you've been heavy into news journalism and things like that, and you've also mentioned you've written other books and so forth. But I'm going to get a little bit about your literary roots. Who are, I guess, some of your favorite writers, or so much that they might be influences with you, and where did your writing path start?
It's a kind of a mix, but I would say I lean toward writers who were journalists earlier in their career. So Hemingway comes to mind. He was used to writing a certain number of column inches for a newspaper, and so you can't waste a single word. So even if I think this makes a good, useful writing exercise for beginning writers or people who are just trying to sharpen their chops a little bit. Just try to write a news story and knock out and you have a certain number of words when you can do it, and knock out every word that is absolutely not necessary to telling the story. That's what I did for years. Because most of what we said on the radio was written, and even though we're not talking about column inches, I had a 30 to 60 second window, depending, to get everything in, or maybe it was a 2-minute and 40-second newscast, and then so I had to write my newscasts in such a way that they would fit, with maybe 1 or 2 seconds to spare, to give me just a little bit of flexibility. So write tight, is how we say in radio, and so there are other writers too who have that background and have that experience. Steve Inskeep, actually, an NPR personality, has several books of history. He has a great interest in American history, and I'm reading his book Jackson Land right now. And so Andrew Jackson and how he shaped the part of the world where we live in, actually, right now. And so I'm really enjoying this book. It's a lean read, and I like that. I tend to really lean toward that. However, I have also enjoyed Anne Rice, who loves to use her words and put them on the page. So I kind of go both ways in that regard, but I start from a position of reduce the sentence down to the bone, and then if you want to add something to it, add. Something that, I try to gauge, how patient the reader will be, what they're looking for. So, yeah, that's kind of been my approach. Nice.
And, I know Holly won't disagree with you about the Anne Rice influence. That's her fave. But, I do like a lot of the style of writers you're talking about. And some get really, like Cormac McCarthy and all, they get really succinct.
Oh, yeah.
Even down to the point they don't even use quote marks. So so yes, you can really pare it down, but that's when did you know that you wanted to write novels? What point in your career did you get the itch to start writing novels?
Oh, I was 16, and I was watching this series on a British series that was carried on PBS. We're all about the same age, so I think you might remember Riley, Ace of Spies from the early 1980s. Sam Neill plays a spy in Europe, and he goes to Russia and all that. It's a series that really doesn't hold up today. But back in the early 80s, it was intriguing, and I'm 16 years old. I'm watching this and I'm going, I'm going to try to write a spy novel. And so I wrote 200 pages of manuscript on it was a hybrid between an electric typewriter and a word processor, one of those early, inventions.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know what I'm talking about. And I wrote 200 pages, finished the book. Sorry?
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. And so, anyway, I finished this manuscript. I handed it to my mom. She actually reads it, takes the time to read it, and it was terrible. But she was kind. She said, you might want to work on that ending. This love scene here, you probably want to, get some experience and think about writing, try that one again in a few years. So and then I went to college, and I didn't have time to write, but I started writing after I graduated, and started picking up again. And when I got married in 2006, oddly enough, that's when I started writing, for real, for really getting serious about being a writer. And then I had a couple of books before this one, but Fiona's Guardians is the one that I'm most proud of. It's my best work, and that's the one that I talk about most often, because this is kind of, I do feel like I'll call this my first book.
Do you think that it was also kind of because you just described the broadcast world and having to really, have just cut everything down just to the basic level, and you have things that have to be fit into 60-second, 2-minute, 40-second segments, things like that, and obviously there's a time pressure, there's there's a little bit of urgency at times, and of course the joys of tech malfunctions, which are always fun when you're broadcasting. But do you think that the novel side appealed to you because it was so maybe different, in that it's something that you could reflect on, marrying it on, like you said earlier, an art that you could really just kind of immerse in and not be pressured to be fit in a certain time window, or have to do things just a certain format. Do you think that is kind of something that kind of helped in the process of bringing that side of you out, you think? Or
yeah, I guess I was tired of telling other people's stories. The story about something that happened to this person, or this, an event that happened, and something was important to us in the community, but I felt like I was ready to move on and try something that I could own, a story that would be my own. And that's kind of where I think that's what prompted me to write, to seriously try to write first short stories and then novels. Nice. And if I can add, sure. Fiona's Guardian started out as a short story. It was 3 early chapters in my book. Fiona, Dear Applicant, Fiona, and Sex, Death, and Dentistry were all part of a short story called The Caretaker, which was published in a literary journal called Crack the Spine back in 2017. And that's how I became confident, when I could get into this journal with my story and then send it to reviewers, book bloggers who loved it. And then, gave me really good reviews. And then they said in the review they want to see if this could be turned into a book. They would like to see the story play out. And that's what prompted me to stretch the story out into a novel.
That's interesting. And I don't always encounter that. That's interesting, because it's a solid
and it gave me
novel.
The confidence.
It's a full 300-some pager, if I remember the page count.
Yeah. From
what I read on your Amazon page, it's a nice, solid-sized novel. Yeah. So yeah.
And so if there are beginning writers out there, or if there are people who are young writers, you don't have to bite off the whole novel. You can take a chapter that stands alone as a short story and try to get that published. And that will tell you, that should be a good indication. If you get into a genre magazine or a literary journal, somebody else saying that your work is really good will tell you you're on the right path. And then write another short story that stands as a chapter of the book. And that's exactly what I did. This Fiona's Guardians at one point was 12 short stories. And then I stitched them all together, added different chapters and that sort of thing. So, like I said, you can take it a short story at a time.
Yeah, absolutely can. And then in the film world, we have incidents where they took a chapter and turned it into an entire feature film, Voyage of the Demeter. So, that's
right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, one chapter.
Which, like I said, I was so sad about the box office, because the movie I thought was wonderful, but I wish it could have done full.
People were unaware. That was people that went in with expectations that, this is going to be another vampire movie, and then I never actually read the book, because those of us that know Dracula found it phenomenal. I looked over at Steve and I'm like, oh, isn't he magnificent? He's beautiful. But that Corbin Steve's like, oh boy, just shakes his head,
Yep. But good movie. It had the brooding atmosphere. It had the brooding atmosphere of the movie Alien, but on a sailing vessel.
Yeah.
It had that kind of it's really, really nice. But we're getting down to about a little over 4 minutes left in the show. So this is the part. We want to reiterate the appearances again and talk, of course, about what's coming up this Saturday at our awesome friend's bookstore, Bobby Craig's Fabled Forest in Georgetown. But go ahead and tell us again for folks about this Saturday, and then feel free to add in the other two dates you have coming up too.
So yes, I'll be at Fabled Forest. I think it's 100 South Broadway in Georgetown, and again, it's just upstairs from a wine shop. I mean, if you can think about it, it's great. You just get your glass of wine, take it up the stairs. Bobby, the owner, is encouraging people to bring a glass of wine up to meet the authors. That is yours truly, and Eva Vertrees, who is also a novelist of vampire tales. And so that's from 4 until 6. And I am really looking forward to that. So they're calling it a dark literature vampire kind of evening that they're going to make of it. Then on Saturday, the 21st of October, I'm in Columbus, Indiana at Village Lights Bookstore. They're celebrating 50 years, and I'll be there from 11 to 2. Then Friday, the 27th, I'm in Bloomington, Indiana at Morgenstern Books for a moderated author talk and book signing. That's in the evening, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Again on the 27th. And then November 10th and 11th, I will be at the Louisville Book Festival, my first event in my new hometown of Louisville.
Fantastic. And, of course, we're looking farther ahead. We're looking forward to having you with us next summer at ours. And but, yes, tell us about
I'm looking forward to that, too. Online platforms and websites where folks can find you to connect right now. I'm on Facebook. I'm on, I keep forgetting. I'm on LinkedIn, if that matters. Do people care about LinkedIn anymore?
Yeah,
yes,
love it.
It very much matters. I love LinkedIn.
Use it every day. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on there. I'm there. I post occasionally on LinkedIn.
I will find you.
What are we calling?
We will find you.
What are we calling Twitter these days? X? I'm on there. Instagram. Yeah. I have a website, danklefstad.com. You can find me anywhere. And I encourage you, by the way, if you're thinking about buying a copy of Fiona's Guardians, it's easy, of course, to order from Amazon or Barnes & Noble online. And they're great. I'm glad they're there. But if there's an independent bookstore anywhere near you, I would encourage you to order it from them. I have spent a lot of time co-branding with independent bookstores. I believe that independently owned businesses are really the best thing for our communities, and we need to support them.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
I agree.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope this is the first of many conversations we have. Love your perspective on writing. I'm really interested in your new book. Can't wait to see the film and check out the audio play of it. And, man, just so much cool stuff. And really appreciate you taking your time with us tonight, Dan.
Well, Stephen and Holly, thank you both so much for having me on the show today. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, you're welcome.
Well,
you're welcome, and definitely have to. Yes, you satisfied Holly's vampiric heart tonight.
Good.
Holly, we'll let you round it out.
Well, thanks again, and we will talk to you shortly, and hopefully we can buzz out and see you for a bit on Saturday. And I encourage everybody else to check out Fabled Forest, 100 South Broadway. And check out these wonderful vampiric authors just in time for the holiday. And I ask that you join us next Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Another great show, another great guest. Be creative for the rest of the week. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, I'm recording.
Here, just ready, and happy birthday!
It's
The moped.
yeah.
Careful, and happy birthday! We can fix it up together.
We're getting closer.
Happy birthday!
Get the vehicle you really want with UKFCU's auto loan. It's banking, only better.
Okay, I'm recording.
Here, just ready, and happy birthday!
It's
The moped.
yeah.
Careful, and happy birthday! We can fix it up together.
We're getting closer.
Happy birthday!
Get the vehicle you really want with UKFCU's auto loan. It's banking, only better.